But we'll begin today with the Strategic Defence Review, which Starmer says is going to put Britain on a war footing. He has launched the Strategic Defence Review today at a visit to BAE Systems, which puts, as I say, the UK on a war footing. As reported last week, the SDR was externally led, in inverted commas, by Lord Robertson, a former Labour Defence Secretary and Secretary General of NATO, a former Secretary General of NATO. Now, Robertson has apparently made 62 recommendations in the review, and they are all going to be accepted in full because the UK armed forces need to, quote, move to warfighting readiness to deter Russia. Do you think Russia will feel deterred by anything that Britain does at this point?
I'm going to say no.
No, it's as simple as that. Well, look, following on from the announcement of the kill web, which we were reporting on Friday, Secretary of State for War John Healey and Keir Starmer made a couple of other announcements this morning. First is the one on screen at the moment, that the UK will build up to 12 attack submarines as part of the AUKUS programme. Now, it's not clear at this point how many of these submarines are going to Australia, but certainly some of them will be there to replace our ageing attack submarine fleet as it exists at the moment. Now, these are nuclear-powered, conventionally armed submarines for the purpose of hunting and killing conventionally armed and nuclear-armed Russian submarines. And, well, this is hilarious, or maybe not, actually, because these new submarines, as I say, not clear exactly how many will go to Australia, but certainly some of them will replace the current fleet of nuclear-powered, conventionally armed attack submarines that Britain has. But there is no retirement plan in place for the old ones. In fact, about a dozen of the previous generation, which were retired over the course of the last 45 years, are rotting in a pond at Devonport Dockyard here in Plymouth, and there are several more up in Rosyth in Scotland. The Scottish submarines, and several of those in Plymouth, have been defueled already, but 8 in Plymouth have not. And as you saw from that headline, in fact, there have been a couple of leaks from those submarines over the last few years. The process of defueling them has now been halted. So the question is, are they going to add the currently deployed submarines to that grouping as they're retired from active service? That time will tell on that. Now, also announced this morning is the securing the future of the Royal Navy's continuous at-sea nuclear deterrent, backed by £15 billion investment into the Sovereign Warhead programme in this Parliament, and that was their words. This is also fairly hilarious because even if these work, the delivery system doesn't, and that's been demonstrated a couple of times now, as the BBC has reported here in the past. And there doesn't seem to be any announcement about the delivery system itself, and perhaps that's because Britain has little or no control of that, since Trident belongs to the United States, effectively. So it seems to me that the danger is that as the UK moves onto this war footing, more and more people are going to be reliant on that for their livelihoods, because Starmer is using this also as a jobs programme, as we can see from this graphic that they pushed out this morning. And although they're saying here procurement of up to 7,000 UK-built long-range weapons, £1.5 billion investment to build 6 munition and energetics factories, work will create more than 1,000 new jobs and support a further 800 across the UK. That's only one of the announcements. They're talking about tens of thousands of jobs in the British defence warfare industry in the coming years. So anyway, the Strategic Defence Review will be released today. We'll read it carefully and report more on that in the coming on Wednesday and Friday, I've no doubt. What are your thoughts, Ben? The prospect of people's incomes and jobs reliant on the continuation and the building of this war rhetoric is pretty dangerous.
I'd say it's extremely dangerous, and it's not just happening in the defence industry. If you listen to what they're describing as taking place in this huge industrial transition, the green transition, they use this term good green jobs all the time, right? And essentially that's people working for the state. Yeah, so this is the slow and probably increasingly accelerating destruction of traditional industries and the private sector, and then that being replaced with everyone being reliant on these jobs that come from the government. If you're reliant on the government for your income, that means that you can't criticise the government. That's not a good place for us to be, given what we've seen them doing on a consistent basis over the past, well, I don't know how long, several decades, century, certainly the past few years.
Absolutely. And not just you can't speak out, but of course, you're much more likely to be for the war program, for the war policy.
Absolutely, yes. Your livelihood is on it. Your interests align with the people running the system. Ultimately, it's bad enough as it is now. I mean, just look at the way that the NHS behaves on a daily basis, and you apply that to all the other different component parts of the system. Then, we're in big trouble. But ultimately, that's what they've been talking about doing, right? They have this term mission-led government, and they want to align the entire nation around these missions. And they've got 5 of them, right? One of them's about green energy. There's a bunch of others that I can't reel off the top of my head. But this is about aligning the entire nation, government, market, the population, all of it around these shared objectives that are being dictated from the centre. Yeah, it's a fundamental transformation of the country. You no longer live in a free country at that point. Everything's being dictated by the system.
Absolutely. No.